Eskom gave what I'm pleased to say is a regular state of the system briefing earlier today. It's one of the positive developments is that we are fairly frequently given what I believe, because I haven't seen anybody challenging the information, given what I believe to be accurate information about the state of the system. And we were told earlier today that there is a reasonable chance that we will, for the second winter in a row, move through that winter with no load shedding, and should circumstances arise in which load shedding is required, that should not go beyond stage 2. Energy analyst Matthew Cruz joins us now. Matthew, good afternoon. Are you reassured? Do you think that's a reasonable commitment for them to have made?
Hello, thank you for having me. Hello to your listeners. So yeah, in terms of what you're saying regarding the accuracy of the data, I would say that the data that's presented is accurate. However, the data that is presented is cherry-picked. So what I mean by that is that they'll mention that we've got less unplanned outages currently than there are last year, and so that's a 3 gigawatt improvement. But then they won't point out that overall the energy availability factor has been sitting below 60% for the last 6 months, when they had a target to get it above 65% last year, and then by March 70%. So they'll take the extreme. You might think of like them as termed as low-hanging fruits if you're a consultant from a management consultant perspective, but they'll take the best possible stats and figures that there are amongst all of the bad figures, and they'll point to those and say, therefore we're doing okay and everything will be fine. Another example of this, not even referring to the actual numbers and the figures, is saying, that we're meeting all regulatory compliances when it comes to our environmental emission standards. Meanwhile, they've also just been granted concessions to continue to exceed the limits that they were meant to be complying to now for 15 years. So they point to like positive things, and I would deem myself to be a pessimist when it comes to Eskom and also what they say and believing them. In terms of being a pessimist, I previously kind of on this show gave a projection that we can expect load shedding to return in the Q1 of this year, and also it depends on Eskom's happiness, whether they are happy with NERSA's provision of tariffs to Eskom or not. And classically, the day that NERSA gave their bad news to Eskom that they'll only get a third of their increase, we had stage 6 load shedding. So in terms of this now, my pessimism is going to come into this projection in that they're saying that if we remain at below 13 gigawatts of unplanned outages, then we won't have load shedding. But if we go up to 15 gigawatts, then we'll have about 21 days of stage 2 load shedding. And looking through the data, I see last week and the week before, we were actually at the 15 gigawatt mark that they just kind of referred to. So they're saying if we get down to a level that we have not been at before, but now have just met in this last week and have not met in the last 3 months, if we stay at that level, then we won't have load shedding. But however, if we go up to the 15 gigawatts, where we've kind of been for the last 3 months, then we can expect stage 2 load shedding. So they pretty much are saying that they're expecting stage 2 load shedding.
But Matthew, aren't they also saying, goodness, here I find myself potentially defending Eskom. Aren't they also saying that there will, between now and winter, both Coburgs will be online? So we will have more power available, which means even if we do have 15 gigawatts out, then we will have more available. So stage 2 is the limit of it.
Yes, they've said also, apart from Coburg Unit 2 coming online, that they expect Medupi Unit 4 and Kusile Unit 6 to be online, totaling 2,500 megawatts. So they say they're expecting this to come online. And as I read that, I also am reminded of the aspect of demand increasing during the winter periods. So at the moment, we've just been making it through without going into load shedding, sometimes dipping into stage 2, sometimes higher, by firing our diesel turbines up to 2,600 megawatts or 3 stages of load shedding over the last 3 months. So we've just been missing load shedding by firing our diesel turbines to their maximum. And now we've got about 3,000 megawatts more coming in terms of demand from heating up homes and heating up businesses. And at the same time, then they're bringing 2,500 megawatts online. So I'm seeing like those two aspects kind of counterbalancing themselves. And it's kind of their plan as well, that they bring units online as we go into winter, so that they have more capacity for the extra demand. So I see those pretty much balancing each other out, of the extra capacity coming online, meeting the extra demand that's coming. And as a result, then I'm saying that I think at the moment, they're optimistic, saying that they're going to have no load shedding because they're hoping it will be below 13,000 megawatts offline. I think it's going to be on average about 15,000 megawatts, and then beyond that, we'll go about 2 stages up. So we can expect stage 2 load shedding, and then a little bit of up to stage 4 and maybe higher load shedding as well. So that's kind of my how I'm reading the data as I see it at the moment.
Can I go back to what you said earlier? Do you genuinely believe that Eskom instituted load shedding as a response to NERSA not giving them the quantum of price increase they asked for?
So it was a bit of a too perfect real life scenario relative to what I projected. So what ended up happening there was what was termed a perfect storm by the electricity minister, where they had been firing the diesel turbines for up to stage 3 load shedding mitigation up until the day that NERSA was announcing it. And I suspect I'd been looking at the data and I was seeing that, interestingly, the kind of 6 months leading up to the NERSA determination, they were firing the diesel firing philosophy, it's termed, was quite different to a year before, where if you recall, we'd be in stage 0 or stage 1 during the day, and then we'd pop up to stage 2 or stage 3 in the evening, because they just wouldn't fire diesel. It's expensive. It's 10 times more expensive than coal to fire diesel, and they're making a loss every time they're turning on a diesel turbine. And I'd noticed that 6 months leading up to the tariff announcement, they were just firing the diesel like constantly during the day sometimes, mitigating 3 stages of load shedding, and then just doing whatever they could to stay at stage 0 and keep the stage 0 narrative alive. It's almost like they had a KPI in place that if they can keep stage 0 in place, then they can get the tariff that they've been requested of 33% increase. And so my projection was Eskom is currently spending lots of money to appease NERSA and to appease the governing entity that has told it, here's your KPI, don't have load shedding. At the same time, it's saying, well, we actually are losing lots of money and we're going into debt by firing the diesel the way that we are. So what's really going to keep them incentivized to continue doing that after tariffs drop? So that was my reasoning of like, it kind of actually depends on their emotions, on their happiness, whether they're happy with the increase, because they could take the increase if it's lower and say, oh, well, therefore we won't have enough money for our diesel, so they're going to revert back to our old diesel firing philosophy. That was my projection.
So the answer to the question, do you believe they deliberately did it because they didn't get the price increase they asked for, is yes?
No, it's actually a no. So the reason being is the reasoning that I had going in to make the projection was, oh, they in general are going to revert back to old diesel firing philosophy. What ended up happening on the actual day, that's why I was saying it's a bit too perfect, is that they fire diesel turbines for 5 days, and at the end of those 5 days, unfortunately, you need to then restock your diesel storage tanks, and you actually can't fire diesel turbines for longer than 5 days. You need to bring them down, restock them, and then fire them up again after 2 days. So it was a bit of a perfect storm, and that's why I went all the way to stage 6. And in that sense, it was coincidental that it happened to be on the day that NERSA provided their feedback to Eskom that we end up going to stage 6. So, going forward, I still see that Eskom is firing their diesel turbines up to stage 3, and it's been doing it for the last 3 months. So even following the tariff announcement, they still are playing to the narrative of things are fine. We're firing our diesel turbines to keep load shedding away. But going into winter, I just see us dipping above being able to above the demand of what Eskom's able to meet. So I do see us going to stage 2 to 4 load shedding.
Matthew, thank you very much for that. Energy analyst at IMPOSTER, Matthew Cruz.